Hello everyone, welcome back to Vinyl Crush and welcome to Not Your Mother's Top 20 Soundtracks. And I have a guest on the Crush couch today. I brought in a friend, Patrick. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, man. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I brought Patrick in because Patrick is a local collector, has a really beautiful collection of records, knows a lot, and he loves soundtracks. He's got a big soundtrack collection.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah. So I thought we'd do sort of two top 10s for the top 20, so you can really get a broad view of different Not Your Mother soundtracks.
Absolutely.
So I think we'll go from 10 to 1 and talk about what we're showing. I just want to say also, as I chose the records for this particular video, I was really thinking about music that stands by itself, a great soundtrack, but also how that soundtrack impacts the film and does it work well with the film. So those are some of the things that I was thinking about as I was choosing the albums that I'm going to show. And I also want to say these are the ones that are my top 10 right now. 3 days ago it might have been a different top 10. This is not the best in the world. This is just our opinion.
Agreed.
Do you want to add anything to that, Patrick?
I do. I think that a film could be made or broken by its soundtrack. That is kind of the backbone that sees it all through, sets the tones, and really adds the crescendos, decrescendos to the entire film. So it's very quintessential.
Wonderful. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you brought. Do you want to start us off?
Yeah.
Good.
Let's start it off.
Number 10.
Number 10 for my choices here. This is a 2021 release of Tangerine Dreams, The Keep. Believe it or not, this is a first pressing. There's been a lot of rumors throughout the years that there were bootlegs made. It wasn't until around 2013 that was actually proven. But nonetheless, this is the first legit pressing. This is on Virgin Records and was a Record Store Day 2021 release.
Wow.
Definitely in my top 10. I have a lot of the Tangerine Dream albums and soundtracks. They did 30 some odd soundtracks during their career, and this is one of my tops for them. I
almost showed Sorcerer.
Oh yes,
yeah,
that's a great one.
It was on my
Absolutely.
list. It kind of got cut off, but yeah, I love Tangerine Dream.
Yeah. No, they've definitely carved their way into the top of the greatest there.
I'm actually a fan of Tangerine Dream in their own right, outside of soundtracks too. They did some amazing music.
Definitely, yeah.
Great.
So
is there more about that?
Nope.
You're good? Okay.
Yep.
My number 10 is Rocky Horror Picture Show. So this came out in 1975. This was originally a play. It was a musical, and it was written for screen. They did a great job transferring it over to the big screen. Amazing movie. Richard O'Brien, who plays Riff Raff, he's over here. He wrote the whole play and all the music, and it's fantastic. It's just incredible, and it works so well. It makes the picture, literally, as a musical. It makes the picture. They did a great job casting with Susan Sarandon and Barry Bostwick, and of course Tim Curry.
Tim Curry, yeah.
Right?
How can you fade Tim Curry?
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess Mick Jagger originally wanted the role. Did you know that?
I had no idea. Yeah, that's amazing.
Which might have been interesting, but I think Tim Curry way better.
Tim Curry's the man. Yeah.
So this is a first pressing, 1975, and one of the ways you can tell, I don't know if you knew this, a first pressing is there's an anomaly. Side one of the first pressing, the label is textured.
Wow.
And side two, not. And all the ones after that were not textured. I'll show that and see if I don't know if you can see the texture or not, but that's just a little anomaly that goes with the first pressing. Very campy, very fun movie, and great soundtrack.
Agreed. No, the Time Warp is classic and timeless. Thus, the Time Warp.
That's right.
Yeah. So.
Number 9.
So number 9 for me is you can't have a soundtrack list without the great Danny Elfman. He's done so many soundtracks. It was really hard to kind of keep it to one for this. But this is kind of the one for me. I absolutely have always loved this soundtrack. It was originally put out in 1993. There's been a couple of repressings. There was a picture disc done at one point. And I've never been a big fan of the picture discs. They just don't sound good.
They don't sound good. I don't like them either.
They're really cool to look at. If you want to hang them on your wall, great. But like, if you're an audiophile, it's just not there for me, you know. But then Mondo Records got the licensing for this and did this, and it's an incredible gatefold. Yeah, it's just all around super quality. They have your Jack Skellington variant, which, you know, super cool, and it sounds great. And then of course you can't have Jack without Sally.
You should take that out. Take it out of the sleeve. And, yeah, show it.
Okay.
That's beautiful. And bring it closer to the. Really,
you can't really have your Jack without your Sally. So definitely one of my top ones. My only critique of this is that it's not the complete soundtrack. And for us fans of Nightmare Before Christmas, people that love the entire score and soundtrack, it would have been cool to see a triple LP. But someday.
Someday, hopefully.
Yeah.
I wonder what color the third one will be.
Got a wide berth.
So my number 9 is Virgin Suicides. This came out in 2000. This is a Sofia Coppola film, and this is a first pressing. The music was done by a French duo. They were sort of a rock and electronic duo called Air. And when they were making the music for this, initially they were going to just do the scenes. They were going to pick a scene and write the music for that scene. But as time went on, they decided to actually write music that was standalone. So they made this amazing record. This is outstanding to listen to. I love chilling, listening to it in the evening. It's just incredible music. And it's, you know, a little on the dark side, a little on the sweet, haunting, kind of weird, just like the movie, which is kind of a twisted film in itself. Nice. But first pressing, amazing record. I think it goes that way. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Virgin Suicides, Sofia Coppola, and Air.
Can't go wrong there, man, at all. Next up for me, we've got the soundtrack to Cruisin. This was a fairly controversial film when it came out. It deals with a serial killer who is targeting gay men in the nightclub scene. And Al Pacino plays an undercover cop that goes in to infiltrate and try and catch this killer. The really cool part about this soundtrack is it took place in the punk underground scene, and there is some serious gems on this. This is a reissue that came out in 2020 as well, but there's 5 previously unreleased tracks from the Germs on this. It's got William DeVille. It's got all kinds of folks on here. Definitely, you know, Mutiny is on here. But this is the first time that this has been pressed in its entirety. It's a triple gatefold. Let me see if I can get that open. So, yeah, if you're a fan of the punk scene in any way, this is absolutely essential, regardless of being a soundtrack or whatever.
Right.
Definitely in the top list there. And this was put out by Waxwork Records.
Sweet. That's really... I actually haven't heard that. I would love to listen to it. Maybe I'll have to borrow that after we're done with the video.
It's amazing. I would trust you to let you hang out with that. Yeah.
So my number 8 is Curtis Mayfield's Superfly. This came out in 1972, and I saw this on the big screen when it came out. Curtis, this is his third studio album, and this was the record that really kind of made him. He did a number of soundtracks after this movie, but the movie was a hit, but the album was a super hit. It was critically acclaimed. It was loved. The title track, Superfly, great song, but my favorite is the song Freddie's Dead, which also got airplay. Yep. This is on the Curtin label, which is Curtis Mayfield's own label. This is a first pressing, and the first pressings have a die-cut cover here.
Yeah, so
and so you can actually unfold that, and then the record slides in on this side, which is unusual. But I have it in a sleeve that I can't get it out of really quick, so I'm not going to show that. There's some scenes from the movie. And this is a very cool soul album.
It's essential listening.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And the lyrics are very socially aware about drug abuse and poverty and racism. He was very involved in that social awareness in the 70s. Great album, amazing. My number 8.
Yeah, Pusher Man.
Yeah,
you can't go wrong, man. Yeah, it would be impossible for me to have a top 10 list and not show some John Carpenter. I decided to show the Thing box set that was released by Waxwork Records in 2020. What makes this really unique and special is, number one, John Carpenter always did his own soundtracks. This is the first time that he ever let anyone do a soundtrack to one of his films. And of course, that honor went to Ennio Morricone. Ennio Morricone is one of the most well-known soundtrack composers in the world. He's done Quentin Tarantino to Dario Argento, you name it. He's worked with them. So I decided to choose this. So this is kind of the outer box to the box set. So this one here is the cues that John Carpenter added to the movie. Funny enough, most times when a composer writes the soundtrack to a movie, the main shots have already been shot, and they are trying to capture that vibe which was in the movie, right? And Ennio Morricone pre-wrote all kinds of stuff. He, knew that John Carpenter was very much into the synths and had a very kind of distinct style. So Ennio had written all kinds of stuff prior to even seeing the film for this. For whatever reason, John Carpenter was like, look, some of this is going to work for some of it, but it's not going to work for all of it. And so he kind of, not to offend Ennio, went on the side secretly and wrote a bunch of these cues to kind of bridge some of the gaps in the film, to bring the awesomeness that was the Thing. This is an amazing gatefold. So this is, again, just the cues. Just super, super great packaging. Waxworks is just top notch on this. This is the actual pressing here. There was a few different variants of this. This is the Sacred Bones exclusive on that. And then here is the actual Ennio Morricone soundtrack. Also super, super cool pressing. With the snow flurry, which is very, very, very neat. So definitely in my top 10. It's unusual for John Carpenter to let go of the reins and let somebody else write a soundtrack for one of his movies.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Thanks, man.
Incredible vinyl too.
Yeah, they do a great job. Sacred Bones and Waxworks were the contributors on this. So.
Yeah. So my number 7 is from the film CQ. CQ was written and directed by Roman Coppola. So Sofia Coppola's brother, I believe.
Okay.
And oddly, this Sofia Coppola's that I just showed was a French duo that wrote the music. This is also written by a French duo.
Nice.
And it's called Mellow, but it's a duo. And they are kind of a psych pop band. And this movie is it's not a Hollywood film. It is definitely an art film. It's definitely something that came from the heart of Roman Coppola. The film is basically late 60s French, and they're making a movie that's basically kind of a campy sci-fi film. So there's a movie within a movie. But it's all pretty campy and fun and interesting, and there's a lot going on. So the music has to go a lot of different places. But it's great psych pop. Really, really good stuff. And I happened to finally come across, I've been looking for this, a first pressing of this, and was really, really happy to find it. And I'll show you the cover. But beautiful film, and the music just works incredibly well with this.
What year did that come out?
This came out in 2002.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it, but...
Yeah. I saw this when it first came out, and then bought the DVD and bought the CD at the time. Now I have but I love this. And it's, I don't really, Hollywood films are good, but the non-Hollywood genre for me is top. And this is one of those.
Right.
So that was my number 7.
Awesome. Right, so let's get into number 6 here. I have chosen Maniac. This was a miniseries on Netflix, also put out by Waxworks. You may see a theme. They do some pretty incredible sound work stuff. But Dan Romer wrote an amazing soundtrack. The series, if you haven't seen it, is very much about mental health and, like doing a lot of drug experimentation based off of mental health and the human mind in general. This soundtrack really encapsulates it. There are moments of just pure bliss, and it's very tropical and fun. And then there are moments that are very dark, and I think that it's a pretty good capture of what all happens inside of our minds. If you haven't checked out the series, I definitely recommend it. It's been an incredible ride, and I absolutely love the soundtrack.
How many episodes is the series? Do you remember?
I think it's around 10 or 12.
Yeah.
It's not terribly long, but Jonas Hill's in it. It's the cast is incredible. The writing is on par. It's great.
So my number 6, I'm going back to 1959. This is Anatomy of a Murder. Duke Ellington wrote the music for this. It's a great jazz album. The movie is basically a courtroom drama. Jimmy Stewart, a young Ben Gazzara, and a young George C. Scott is in it. And it's really fascinating to see they are so young in this. Also, a young Eve Arden is on this in the movie. The soundtrack is... I don't like everything that Duke Ellington does, but this particular record is amazing. He did a great job. He actually has a cameo in the movie too. He shows up playing piano in a bar.
Oh wow!
And this is a first pressing promo copy that I just recently got a hold of, and it's unbelievable. I love the labels, the 6i Columbia labels with the white and red for the promo copy. So amazing record, great jazz. Duke Ellington did a great job on this, and this movie seemed like it was the precursor to what was that TV show, Perry Mason?
Perry Mason.
Yeah. So
some of the great detective and mystery shows of the time. Yeah. Well, all you have to say is Duke Ellington.
Yeah.
You're in there.
It's really good.
So number 5 for me is Rick Wakeman, The Burning.
Rick Wakeman.
If y'all don't know who Rick Wakeman is, check him out. He was a keyboardist from Yes. maybe one of the most wicked keyboard players of all times. It was interesting to see him dive into the darker side and do a movie like this. The movie The Burning is kind of loosely based on the legend of Crosby, which is an actual true story, which makes it that much creepier, I think. But the dude that played George from Seinfeld is in this. It's one of his earliest showings, but it's not quite as like ominous and dark as some of the other soundtracks that were going on in the 80s. Rick Wakeman definitely brought his funk, his awesomeness to this. This was put out on Charisma in 1982, and if you knew Charisma, they were one of the premier prog labels back in the day. So this is actually a first pressing, and you can see the old Charisma label there.
I love the labels on those old.
Yeah. Got the Mad Hatter, definitely a time capsule there, and really something not to be missed if you love synths and you love that proggy kind of feel, mix it with some horror, you should definitely check it out.
So we're diving into the top 5. That was your number 5.
That was number 5, yeah.
And I wanted to add, as we're talking about this, I realized most of what we're showing, these are all, I think we're influenced by the fact that we're heading into Halloween, because all of our stuff is really pretty dark.
It's a little dark, yeah.
We're going to finish up this top 5, and we're going to show a couple of our favorite sort of Halloween themed or October themed at the end of this too, for fun.
So it's going to get weirder.
It's going to get weird.
Sorry.
Not your mother's.
Yeah, not your mom's.
Top 20 soundtrack.
Or maybe it is your mom, so I want to hang out with her. So.
Introduce me. Okay, so my number 5 is, I'm jumping from 59 to 1969. This is more, the soundtrack was done by Pink Floyd. This is their 3rd studio album. This is the first album that Syd Barrett had nothing to do with. For them. And this album in some ways reminds me of kind of where they were. It makes me think of where they're going, because there's a few songs on here that make me think of like Metal. The album Metal, which is one of my favorite Pink Floyd albums. So they're instrumental tracks, acoustic folk tracks, hard rock tracks. The film was set in Europe. It's sort of the death of Summer of Love. 1969, so 68 was the Summer of Love. And there's a couple that meet and go to Ibiza. I think that's in Spain, an island. They vacation there, and succumb to there's a lot about free love, but the negative side of it, they succumb to heroin addiction. So it's not a fun film. It's definitely a dark film, and Pink Floyd was a great choice for that. Amazing movie, and
a little bit of Requiem for a Dream.
No kidding.
Starts out really fun, and then you're like, oh my god.
This is the first pressing on Tower. This is the first U.S. pressing.
It's a great label.
But it's really beautiful pressing, and I love Pink Floyd. And this is, I think, the best thing. I think their very first album was amazing. Piper at the Gates of Dawn. I love that. Really hard psych. But then this was, out of the next 4 or 5 records, my favorite. Great album.
Animals is still in the top for me.
Well, that's later though.
I know.
Once you get to Dark Side of the Moon, it all changes.
Okay, so my number 4. Very difficult to have a top 10. This has been in my top soundtracks and movies since I was a little kid. Flash Gordon, soundtrack by the amazing band Queen. You can't fade Freddie Mercury, right?
It was so perfect to have them do the soundtrack for this. It was perfect.
Perfect, yeah. I mean, prior to this film, there had been kind of quote-unquote rock operas. You had Tommy the Who, but there wasn't like a mainstream full-on rock opera until this film came out. And Queen was behind it, you know. Like, so this is a first pressing. This was put out by Elektra. Like, literally, I have to own 2 copies of this because I'm gonna wear one off one day. My partner gets really sick of hearing Flash, but you know, it's awesome. Definitely, you know, I think historically one of the first rock operas you could truly call a rock opera.
Very good. I love the Yellow album cover too.
Absolutely.
They really perfect. So my number 4 is technically a soundtrack and technically not a soundtrack. Okay, it's Liaisons Dangereuses. This is a French film, Dangerous Liaisons in English. Thelonious Monk was tapped to do the soundtrack for this. And at the time, they didn't have a lot of time to make the soundtrack, and Thelonious Monk's health was not good. So he pulled together some other stuff he had already recorded and done, and he went to France and re-recorded it for this particular movie. So it's all new, all wonderful live recordings of Thelonious Monk. And then the movie came out. It was so dark that it was actually not allowed to play in many theaters. It was so sexual and so dark and strange. So the movie didn't do really well. They didn't put the soundtrack out. In fact, they did put a soundtrack out by Duke Jordan. He wrote some music for the party scenes in the movie, and Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers recorded that, and that was put out as a soundtrack, even though it was just for a particular piece of the movie.
Section of it, yeah.
So the tapes for this were rediscovered, and they were actually put out in 2017, I think it was 2017, for Record Store Day. And then shortly thereafter, they put out this pressing, which is the Record Store Day was a double album that had like outtakes and stuff like that on it. And this is just the stuff that was recorded and used in the movie.
The actual soundtrack.
Yeah. Amazing. Thelonious Monk, the quintet is Charlie Rouse on tenor sax and Barney Weiland on tenor sax, Sam Jones on double bass, and Art Taylor on drums. And this is an amazing record, and it works very well for a very, very interesting and dark movie. So, and the movie came out in 1959.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, for the time, I'm sure it was quite shocking.
Yeah, it was. They remade it in the Dangerous Liaisons with Glenn Close. And,
not the same.
Not the same.
Not the same.
But
they got that 80s kind of gloss over it.
A Hollywood
not
version.
The same. Yeah.
That was number 4, so we're to number 3.
All right, number 3. So number 3, Conan. You know, what can I say about this? I think this and Flash Gordon are the 2 that really got me into soundtracks. This is an epic beyond epic beyond epic. Everything on here just makes you want to grab a sword and run out in the woods on a horse and, you know, save the princess, right?
Isn't there Carmina Burana on there?
It is. Yeah.
Great.
So, you know, this is Basil Polidorus, and I hope I didn't just butcher his last name. But this is definitely one of my favorite soundtracks. I've listened to this on repeat for years, and I will continue to. It'll never get old for me. This is a first pressing MCA.
They really kind of mimicked the old Frank Frazetta covers that they had for the Conan books.
Yeah,
for the
totally.
Cover of that.
You know, the song that they call the Anvil of Crom, right, is kind of Excalibur, really. If you're familiar with the classical song Excalibur. But, you know, you've got songs like The Orgy, which is hands down one of my favorites on here. It's kind of light and airy, but yet mystical and old. And I really feel like Basil was able to kind of capture that kind of Dark Ages sound like I haven't really heard anybody else capture. So this will definitely be in my top for all fantasy and everything else that I've heard.
You know, when I saw that film, one of the highlights of that film for me was Jerry Lopez. He played the little shaman guy. He's Mr.
Absolutely.
Pipeline. He's like a world-class surfer.
Right.
He was like one of the best surfers in the world.
Yeah.
And it was great to see him play such a fun role. Yeah. He was great. So my number 3, I've shown this on my channel before. This is such an amazing album. Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence by Ryuichi Sakamoto. This came out in 1983, and I saw this when it first came out because I was actually studying Japanese language and business back in those days. And so I saw this film and blew me away, and I went out immediately and bought the soundtrack on vinyl and listened to it until I wore that record out. It was such an amazing record. Ryuichi Sakamoto originally was with the Yellow Magic Orchestra in the 70s, sort of a progressive electronic band, and he had a few solo things come out, but this was his first soundtrack. He won a BAFTA for this, and he's won many awards for this film, for Revenant, The Last Emperor, The Sheltering Sun. Yeah. He's done numerous soundtracks. He also I have a bunch of his solo stuff from the 80s into the early 90s that I'm going to show at some point that were amazing. This is definitely electronic, down-tempo, ambient. The movie is very dark. It's about prisoner of war and a relationship between the Japanese. The Japanese were holding prisoners of war in Korea, and one of the prisoners of war was played by David Bowie, who starred in the film with Ryuichi Sakamoto, who also starred in the film. And incredible story, but the music, the darkness and the ambience and what he did with this was outstanding. Incredible record. This is the first pressing from Japan, 1983. I looked a long time to get a hold of one of these that's in good shape. Amazing record.
It's incredible, man.
One of my favorite records, not just one of my favorite soundtracks.
Yeah.
I love this record.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, like you said at the beginning, I think soundtracks are musical works in their own. When you combine them with the actual film, it takes on an even deeper, further understanding of what's happening, you know.
And that film in particular was made by a Japanese director and had some very famous Japanese actors at the time in the early 80s. Beat Takashi and some other people were in it. It was a very unusual film. It was taken from a book called The Seed and the Sower. And it's really about this love that these two men who can't even like each other, they're enemies, but you can tell they're struggling with this passion for each other. Yeah. It's this, amazing movie. Really dark, not a Hollywood film. We're down to the last.
My favorites, yeah.
Yeah. We're down to number 2. I'm getting excited now. What do you got to show us?
So my number 2 is from a Dario Argento film, of course. This is Goblin, Phenomena. Goblins, probably my favorite soundtrack band, writer, composers of all time. Claudio Simonetti's band has really just always done an amazing job. If you know anything about me, I'm a huge prog rock fan, and Goblin is prog. They're probably most well known for Profondo Rosso and Tenebrae. This film here, Phenomena, starred Jennifer Gardner, and who didn't have a crush on Jennifer Gardner in the 80s, But this is a repress. This is something that was put out by our friends at Waxworks once again. If you noticed, it is signed by Claudio Simonetti and the band. So I got to meet them and hang out with them, thanks to some of our friends at the Waxworks company. they came to Portland and played at the Hollywood Theater and played the entire score to Profondo the Russo Live, and then did a show afterward. And it was, to say the very least, a really epic evening. But just to show you the pressing on this, once again, Waxworks delivers. That is just incredible.
Now that's poured, right?
No, this is a press.
Okay, this is a press.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is not hand poured. This is a press, but one of the better presses that I've seen. You know, this actual soundtrack is very operatic, funky, dark, jammy. It's got all the elements that just keeps you glued throughout the whole movie. Awesome stuff. Definitely recommend.
Wow, it's a beautiful, everything about it. The cover, the wax.
Yeah, that high gloss.
Really beautiful, really well done, really high quality.
Amazing.
Nice. So my number 2, I'm going to talk about a director who was amazing at bringing in, cultivating and culling together and crafting a soundtrack to go with his movies. And he would find songs that worked on anybody's playlist at the time. And after this album came out, it would be everybody's playlist. Yeah. Amazing music. A lot of it we grew up with. A lot of it, some of it's new. He incorporated new music and old and all across the board. The director is Quentin Tarantino. And the movie that I wanted to show was Pulp Fiction, the record. And it's in my basement somewhere. I've misplaced it and I couldn't find it. I looked all day for it and I couldn't find it. So I'm going to show Kill Bill.
Which personally is higher up on the food chain than Pulp Fiction.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Pulp Fiction is my favorite movie. I mean, like top 5.
This like spaghetti western meets kung fu movie, so like you can't go wrong.
This is right, and the music that they did that with. So, 2003, 2004, Kill Bill 1 and 2. Kill Bill 1. So, Bang Bang, You Shot Me Down by Nancy Sinatra. What a great song. It was on nobody's playlist before this album came out, and it was perfect in the movie. Perfect for this kind of assassin-based film. And also on here, one of my favorites is by the 5-6-7-8, the Japanese group, the female group, Woohoo.
Absolutely.
Great song.
Yeah.
Really like that.
There's an interesting story of how he found that band.
Yeah, go ahead and tell it.
Yeah, he was like overseas and had been looking for a certain band to fill a gap and was leaving to catch a plane or something, and somebody was playing on the radio for the restaurant or wherever he was hanging out. It's like, I gotta have this. Who is it? I don't know, sir. You know, blah blah blah, trying to kind of brush him off. And he was like, I can't leave without this, but I can't miss my flight either. And the dude ended up giving him the CD, I think, before he ended up leaving. So, yeah, I could have that a little wrong, but it's pretty close.
That's great. And so this is more the kung fu, and then this is more the spaghetti western, right? Yeah. And he tapped Ennio Morricone.
Yep. For
a couple of songs on here as one of the best spaghetti western composers. Did the trilogy, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah,
amazing stuff. Yeah. And he tapped RZA. He tapped a whole bunch of people. They're both amazing. With Pulp Fiction, he did the same thing. He had Son of a Preacher Man by Dusty Springfield. He had Urge Overkill's version of Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon. He had Rumble by Link Ray. He had Miserlou by Dick Dale. He had Flowers on the Wall by the Statler Brothers. What was that Chuck Berry tune that they did the twist to? You Can Never Tell. Yeah. Great. I mean, that soundtrack is one of my favorite soundtracks. It just is. It's obviously number 2 for me. But Tarantino, amazing at bringing. I hear he's not so much a nice guy. Many people have things to say about him that aren't so nice, but I don't care. The movies and the music are freaking amazing.
Yeah.
You know.
The guy's a legend.
He's a legend.
That's for sure, man.
So we're At number 1.
Number 1.
I'm really
All
stoked
right.
to see what you got, man. I'm loving what you're showing today.
So, number 1. This was kind of a no-brainer and yet very difficult. There is literally zero chance that this wouldn't be in my top 10 somewhere. But for all intents and purposes, this is hands down my number 1 right now. This is Fabio Frizzi's The Beyond, which he wrote for Lucio Fulci as part of the Gates of Hell trilogy and the movie called The Beyond. For those that are not familiar with Lucio Fulci, he's kind of the Italian godfather of horror. He did iZombie. He did the Gates of Hell trilogy, which was The City of the Living Dead, The Beyond, and The House Next to the Cemetery. Fabio Frizzi has done a ton of his movies. Manhattan Baby was another one that he had done for him. And Fabio is one of the nicest dudes that I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. I actually got to meet him through the Weird War folks as well. They brought him to the Portland Hollywood Theater. He played the score to this live. And what makes this unique is that this is the composer's cut. So there's been plenty of pressings of The Beyond. Death Waltz did one. It's been repressed a dozen times over the time. But never in this way. So Fabio had always wanted to have a little bit more carte blanche to do what he wanted to do with the soundtrack and extend some parts, maybe explore a little bit more here and there. And through Jonathan Denson, who owns Cadabra Records, which is one of my favorite record labels. So anyway, yeah, he gave them that platform to be able to recreate and do a composer's cut of The Beyond. The subsequent following year, they toured the entire United States and played that score live to the movie over and over and over again, did shows afterward, lots of meets and greets. This one's not signed, but I have a ton of vinyl that he signed for me that night, and one of the nicest guys ever. But very, very cool presentation. If you don't know Cadabra, check it out. What makes this also very unique and very special is that this is a Wax Mage pressing. So for those that are not familiar with Wax Mage is hand poured. This particular variant, they only did 25 of, and this is number 8 out of 25. Very hard to come by, and you'll understand here in a moment, but all of these records are hand poured and one of a kind. So there's no two that are the same. They are all unique and beautiful. Unlike a picture disc, these sound incredible. The sound quality is just amazing. So, Wax Mage is kind of a subsidiary of Gotta Groove Records. Heath is the guy behind it, and he's just a mad genius. This is record number 2. And as you can see, it's just absolutely incredible.
It's beautiful.
This record right here glows in a black light like none of my other records. Like, you put this thing on and you might as well be at a rave and, but, kind of a dark, weird rave that's out of a horror movie. So, I don't know if they go together. But anyway, definitely check all those guys out. And that is for sure my number 1 for today.
Great record. I love seeing that. You showed me the hand-poured records before, and I've been drooling over them. They almost look edible. What a beautiful, beautiful
They're hard
record.
to come by, but if you get a chance to get one, don't even think twice. Just pick it up.
Yeah.
It'll be worth it.
Beautiful. So for my number 1, again, I'm going to talk about a director. I just actually recently watched everything that this guy has made from 1984, I think, until present day. Jim Jarmusch, another director who was amazing at finding the right people to create the soundtracks for his movies, which are very unusual. They're all very slow, dark, beautiful, interesting films. Every one of them. None of them are Hollywood films at all. They all just kind of like plod along and create tension. Fantastic directing. I love all of his movies. The one that I'm gonna show a couple, but my number one choice. The movie came out in 2017. Only Lovers Left Alive.
So
this is what the reason I'm showing this also is this is the one soundtrack that he did the music to. His band Squirrel, Squrl. Did the music for this. The movie takes place in two locations. It takes place in Tangiers and in Detroit. And one of the subtexts of the movie, there's two actually. One is analog, things that are analog, recreating and using old things to make it work is a big part of what's going on in the movie. But also another subtext is the main stars are vampires. And the fact that they're vampires, this is a vampire movie, but it's not like any vampire movie you've seen. It's not really about that. It's about the inner relationship and what they have to do and what happens when you have to live for thousands of years, et cetera, et cetera. This is not a first pressing. This is 20. I'm going to actually show some of the sleeves for this.
Incredible.
Beautiful. This is what they would drink the blood. They would drink blood out of little like champagne glasses.
Why not?
Here you can see the whole concept of analog and old technology. And this is the house that they showed up in Detroit.
Great.
There's a picture of Tilda Swinton, and I'll show you. So the movie is very slow moving. Here's the Detroit version, and also on the inside they give you information about the Detroit and information about Tangier, and they did it upside down. So here's Detroit, and then here's Tangiers here. So there's the back cover, also upside down from the front. Interesting. The double album, colored in black, white, and red.
It's a great color.
Beautiful, beautiful colors. And instead of playing the whole thing in the order that you see it, they took all of the music that was related to what was going on in Detroit and put it on one record. And all the music that was related to what was going on in Tangiers and put it on the other record, because the music, the whole feel is different for the two locations, obviously. Brilliant. And again, Squirrel did the music for most of this, and it's like really slow tempo, almost slowcore, kind of like it just barely is moving kind of feel sometimes. It's very, very dark and slow.
Very sludgy.
Yeah. It's and it works perfect for the film. And Jarmusch has done this before. In 1996, he did a movie, one of my favorites, Dead Man, starring Johnny Depp. And he tapped Neil Young for this one. And Neil Young was said to have actually just sat and watched the movie and pulled out his electric guitar and played. It's just solo Neil Young on electric guitar, and he just blazes. But it's again slow and methodical and dark and just like emotion. It works perfect for this film. You just couldn't imagine a better soundtrack. This is also a first pressing, which I've been looking for this for a long time, and
it's impressive right there. Yeah, those are not easy or cheap to come by.
No, they're not. It was quite a score to come by. I actually have a reissue of this also somewhere in my basement that I'm not even paying attention to now. Yeah. But anyway, this was an amazing film about a young guy who in the late 1800s went west and ended up in a shamanic experience and supported by actors like Iggy Pop and Tom Waits playing outrageous roles in this movie. A great movie. The last one I want to show is Ghost Dog. starring Forrest Whitaker. This is an urban tale of an assassin who lives by the samurai code in modern day, 1999 world. And he tapped RZA for this. So it's very
Incredible
urban
soundtrack. Yep.
hip-hop. There were a number of, like the record you talked about earlier, there were a number of unofficial releases of this.
Yeah.
But in 2020, they came out with an official release of this because it was only on CD before.
Yeah, I think the only other official release that had come out prior to this was in Japan.
Yes.
It was
No, that
never
was actually,
officially
that wasn't
released.
official either.
It wasn't?
No, no.
Oh, okay.
If you look it up,
Yeah.
it says it's not an official release.
Yeah, interesting. Well, Sacred Bones. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Really,
Once
really,
again.
really amazing. So, Jim Jarmusch, how he taps amazing musicians to play for his really unique movies.
Yeah. I have the Ghost Dog, and that's amazing. I'll take the rest of them with me.
Oh, by the way, The Only Lovers Left Alive was put out by Vinyl Me Please.
Vinyl Me Please.
They pressed 700, and I have number 159.
Wow.
I think it shows that right.
So they're
Oh,
numbered.
there it is.
It's amazing.
Number 159 out of 700. Really, this is one of the reasons why I joined Vinyl Me Please, because you get discounts and free shipping on these other records that they put out. And this is one of the incredible ones that I was happy to get a hold of. Okay, we've done the top 20, the 2 top 10s, but we're going to show a couple of, 3 records that really could have, would have, should have been on the list, but also represent sort of Halloween or that kind of this October. So we're going to show some extras. So 3 extras each.
Yes.
You're on.
100%. You can't have Halloween without Halloween.
Halloween.
So John Carpenter's Halloween.
Is that the first one?
This is the original theme. This is not an original pressing of the first soundtrack. The original pressing for the soundtrack had the mask of Michael Myers on the cover. It was all white and black with the drawing of the mask. Pretty cool. Our buddy Dave has that pressing. So
really?
sometimes maybe we can get him to come show that. But what makes this really unique for me is that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross did a remix of the Halloween theme for this. So side A is the John Carpenter, Alan Howarth version of Halloween that we all know, love, can't get out of our heads, when we're tiptoeing to the bathroom in the middle of the night. The B-side is a remix that, like I said, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross from Nine Inch Nails did. And it's pretty epic. It's crunchy, as you would expect from Nine Inch Nails. And definitely a collector's item,
That sounds great. I have not heard that, so that's another one I'm going to have to borrow from you at some
great.
point. Yeah,
It's definitely in there. You got to check it out.
sweet. So, you were talking about rock operas, and this is something, this was not put out as a soundtrack. This was a record that was put out that was for a stage performance, just like a rock opera, that then they made a movie out of eventually. They made 2. They made a movie of a live performance, and they also just made a movie, which is terrible. The movie sucked. But it's Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare.
Oh, man.
Complete with the Vincent Price, right? This is a first pressing, Atlantic,
Good stuff
U.S.
right there.
I saw this live.
Wow, really?
Yes, 1976, and not only was it the most amazing performance I had ever seen, because he really, it was a stage, it was like a rock opera. It was a whole thing about this.
Some of the best things.
Yeah. Well, he was, and so this was based on a boy named Stephen who falls asleep and goes into nightmare land, and then all this stuff happens with spiders and monsters and goblins, and it was amazing record. And the performances were outstanding. And so I just had to show this because it's really kind of a Halloween themed.
Hell yeah. You even have the spiders and stuff on there.
Yeah. Amazing. I think this is a classic.
Well,
And
you had me at Alice Cooper and Vincent Price. Like, you could have just stopped there and we would have been totally good, man. Definitely some classic stuff there.
all right. I'm ready for your next one.
Okay. My next one is most definitely not for your mom. We're still in the not for your moms. But this is Torso. And this is Guido and Mariozano De Angelis. So this was done in, 1993 or 1973. This is one of the earlier Giallo films, and if you're not familiar with Giallo is kind of what set the stage for our main day slasher films. There's a bunch of them, and anytime you see the leather black gloves and the hooded killer, it's typically a Giallo film. So there's the Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, the Solange. There's all kinds of amazing Giallo films out there. Profondo Rosso is part of that. Even Phenomena, which I showed earlier, is definitely part of that. Tenebrae is part of that. So it was very big in Italy. But this is, next to Goblin, this is definitely one of my more favorite ones. As you could tell by the cover, it's definitely a little bit on the darker side. But if you listen to the soundtrack, it would blow your mind that it's not as dark as you would think it is. It's kind of fun and happy. We're going to show the inside of this, but we're going to censor it for your mom, just so that, you guys can see the whole thing. Definitely not suitable for work. Well, we've made it suitable for work, so definitely check it out. It's an amazing soundtrack.
I can't remember, and I don't know if you know this. At some point, I used to know where the word Jello came in, because Jello means yellow, doesn't it?
I believe it does.
But I don't. I can't remember. I used to know that, and I'll have to look it up again now.
It's. I honestly, I would just be speculating. But Ennio Morricone has done tons and tons of Giallo films.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
They just put out. I think they just put out a compilation of his
the Furia
best,
or whatever.
his best Jello soundtrack pieces.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, this next one I want to show you is a really, really dark film. Came out in 2017. This is an original pressing. The film is called Raw. This is, and I'm trying to remember, you just mentioned the name of the...
Is it Death Waltz?
Death Waltz.
Yeah. Okay.
And this movie is a modern day film, and it has lots of references, like LGBTQ is in here. I mean, it's like, and it's just, it starts off going in interesting directions, and then it just goes way, way outside the box. It's really well done. The music, Jim Williams was a British TV and film composer. He's been nominated for a number of awards and stuff. And he did this. He's also a guitarist. And so there's lots of acoustic guitar on here, but like in minor keys. So you think it's really remarkably well done. There's also violin and viola and keyboard. There's some synthesizer in there to really bring in the dark, foreboding feelings.
Yeah.
This is...
I mean, anything by Death Waltz is going to be very, very high quality.
This is idea taken from one of the scenes in the movie. And I'll show you.
Can't believe you have a Death Waltz that I don't have, Mark. I mean, this is...
I say this for last.
I'm not going to sleep now, and I like...
And there again is the cover. Really dark, really well done, and the music is perfect. And this is like one of my current favorite.
Yeah. When did that come out?
2017.
2017.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I listened to this, on my just to play, just for fun.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So we have one more each, and I think we're going to go old school now.
Yeah. very, very old school and yet very new school at the same time. So, The Bride of Frankenstein. Believe it or not, this is a first pressing of this. This is the first time on vinyl, even though it was recorded back in 1935. Really crazy to think that you know, almost 100 years, and this is the first vinyl treatments that it's actually getting. But this is the first pressing of this, especially in its entirety. Really amazing.
This is the original recording too. This isn't re-recorded.
This is taken from the original masters, and then obviously, you know, kind of remastered a bit, but it is all taken from the original tapes here. This is a Waxworks Records pressing, and you know, these guys just do such an incredible job with stuff. Very much fits the mood, vibe of the entire vinyl package, but essential listening nonetheless.
And there are represses of this available now, is that right? Of this?
I don't believe that there is. I think
they're
this
all
is
gone?
out of print at the moment. If Waxworks does another pressing, then it'll open back up. But as far as I know, they did their one, and they have not released another pressing of this. So it's currently out of print. For those that collected the Spinachers, I don't know if you saw those. I should have brought one with me, but they have these sculptures that fit on the peg of your record player, and they spin around in the middle as your record is playing. And I have one of The Bride, and it's pretty freaking amazing.
What are those called?
Spinachers?
Spinachers.
Yeah, they're awesome. Some other episode, we'll come back and read.
Okay. So I'm doing the same thing. This is an old film. This came out in 1931. Dracula, the original Dracula with Bela Lugosi. So they made this this was a talking picture in 1931, but at the time, a lot of movie houses didn't have the technology for talking pictures, so they also made a silent film version of this movie to go to those theaters, which all across the world. And so they would have somebody come in and play an organ, right, or something like that, to go while they're showing the film. And in 2017, this was released, or 2016. Philip Glass wrote a score for the silent film Dracula. And he performed it it was a string quartet with a keyboard. So he plays keyboard, and he had Kronos Quartet do the music for it. Great quartet.
Philip Glass and Kronos?
Yeah, okay. Two of them together. It was outstanding. And they toured this, and we actually got to go see it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was a number of...
Don't tell me they came to Portland.
They came to Portland. They came to Portland, and, you know, Philip, I got to sit there and watch Philip Glass. I was almost in tears. I love Philip Glass.
No, he's amazing.
And this is such a great soundtrack. And Kronos Quartet, and up on the big screen, the original silent film version of Dracula. It was an incredible experience. So this is first press of this, and it's not much to see in this, I don't think.
Cool. You just put it in this crate over here.
Okay. So that's all we have. Yeah. This is it. Yeah. Top 20 plus 3. So we just showed 26 records. This is a long video, but it's worth it. Thank you.
Got through it.
Patrick, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, man.
I really appreciate it. And let's do another one. Please. Maybe next year we'll do one again like this.
Anytime.
All right. Yeah. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Let's just try some
Let's get close.
That looks cool.
Is that balanced?
Yeah, smile, babe. Or do something cute with your face. Yeah, that looks pretty cool right there.
I could do something like that.
I like the cover more.
Cover's better, yeah. Let's hold it up.
Can you hold the album so it's like almost like touching my yeah more like that.
All right,
Do it
it's
again.
gonna get blown. Right
Okay, it's fine. It's
Hold
fine.
the album lower too.
Album lower.
Yeah. That's it right there. Blow a huge cloud of smoke at Mark. That's great.
All right. We got something to go with.